over 21,000. That's the number of jobs California has lost the first 8 months of this year.
California tied for the highest unemployment rate in the country.
I'm here today with Dave Mason talking about some updates to California's unemployment rate.
Well, California has the highest unemployment rate among any state in the United States.
Analyst office has responded to Governor Newsom's proposed $348 billion budget plan, saying it could put California in a, quote, alarming and financially risky situation.
This is the story of how California's governor has spent 2 years spinning an economic narrative that doesn't match the numbers. Gavin Newsom celebrates California as the world's fourth largest economy, but over 1 million Californians remain out of work, and the state has held the highest or second highest unemployment rate in the entire nation throughout 2024 and 2025. California politics has always featured politicians cherry-picking their favorite statistics, and that's nothing new. What makes the situation different is how wide the gap has become between the triumphant messaging coming out of Sacramento and what ordinary Californians experience when they sit down to pay their bills. The numbers are where this story gets uncomfortable for the governor's office, so that's exactly where we'll start. Between 5.2% and 5.6%, that's where California's unemployment rate has hovered throughout this entire period. Those numbers might not sound catastrophic until you stack them against the rest of the country, where the national average sits around 4%. Texas comes in at 4.1%, Florida holds steady at 3.4%, and even New York, a state facing many of the same big state challenges as California, manages 4.3%. November 2025 brought a 5.5% unemployment rate for California, second only to Washington, D.C. And here's the thing, D.C. isn't even a state. The headline unemployment number actually understates the problem. Private sector industries have lost 340,000 jobs from their post-pandemic peak, according to the California Legislative Analyst's Office. Their November 2024 assessment put it bluntly. Outside of government and healthcare, the state has added no jobs in a year and a half. All the job growth California can point to comes from government hiring in the healthcare sector, which means the private sector, the engine that creates wealth and pays taxes, has been treading water while the governor takes victory laps. Manufacturing dropped 2.9%, professional services fell 2.3%, and financial activities declined 1.9%. And then there's the question of data revisions, which is where this gets even messier. January 2024 brought a downward revision of 231,800 jobs for California, a single correction that accounted for nearly all of the national downward revision. Philadelphia Federal Reserve analysis found systematic overestimation of California employment since mid-2022, with surveys overstating job growth by roughly 25,000 jobs per month. The numbers are bad, and they've been consistently inflated. Newsom has developed a consistent strategy for responding to these figures, and once you recognize it, you'll spot it every single time he speaks about the economy. The approach is straightforward. Pivot to GDP. April 2025 brought this social media post from the governor. New. California is now the fourth largest economy in the world. Last year, the Golden State's GDP topped $4.1 trillion, surpassing Japan. That figure is genuinely impressive, and California's economy is massive by any measure. GDP measures total economic activity, not whether ordinary people can find work or afford their rent. Back in June 2024, California held the nation's highest unemployment rate at 5.2%, and Newsom tweeted, "California continues to lead the nation's economy and create good jobs throughout the state." Just this year, the state created over 107,000 jobs. Notice the technique there, because he didn't deny the unemployment rate and he didn't explain why California ranked dead. Last, he changed the subject. Credit where it's due, Newsom has occasionally acknowledged that people are struggling. A November 2024 press conference in Fresno brought these words. This is about people feeling on edge. It's not talking about macro conditions, but about micro-lived reality. Acknowledging that people feel bad is very different from acknowledging that your policies might have contributed to why they feel bad. The administration has disputed the Legislative Analyst's Office directly, and that office is nonpartisan. When the LAO projected an $18 billion budget deficit, Newsom's finance department called that too pessimistic. H.D. Palmer, the Deputy Director for External Affairs, responded in January 2025 that the administration respectfully disagrees and doesn't believe the data supports that level of pessimism. January 2026 brought Newsom's State of the State address, and with it a new phrase. Critics, he declared, suffer from California Derangement Syndrome. That phrase echoes terminology his political opponents made famous, but here's what it doesn't do. Address the substance of the criticism. Republican legislators criticizing a Democratic governor is predictable politics, but the specific critiques deserve attention because they're built on the same data we've been examining. State Senate Minority Leader Brian Jones, representing San Diego, called Newsom's January 2026 budget proposal more of the same from a lame duck governor content on leaving the rest of us to pick up the financial pieces when he leaves office. Senator Rosalice Ochoa Bogue delivered the most quotable line of all. The results don't match the rhetoric. While speeches sound optimistic, budgets at the kitchen table don't add up. That phrase about kitchen tables captures something real. GDP citations mean nothing to families doing their monthly finances. They care about whether mom or dad has a job and whether they can afford groceries this week. Think tanks have assembled detailed counter-arguments too. Lee Ohanian, a Hoover Institution senior fellow and UCLA economics professor, assembled some devastating comparisons using federal data. Between February 2020, just before the pandemic hit, and May 2024, American jobs grew by over 6.2 million. California lost about 402,000 jobs during that same window. Texas added roughly 1.1 million jobs, and Florida added around 700,000. Governor Newsom frequently criticizes those two states, but their job growth has dramatically outpaced California's. Tax Foundation rankings place California 49th for state income taxes and 48th for overall state tax climate. The state collects $7,200 per person annually in taxes, which comes out to 65% higher than the national average of $4,374. One ranking particularly stings. Chief Executive Magazine has placed California dead last, 50th out of 50 states for business climate, and they've done so for over a decade. Jennifer Barrera, California Chamber of Commerce president, summed up the business perspective. California businesses and consumers alike are focused on the affordability of everyday life. Businesses and everyday Californians are struggling to keep up. The term California exodus has become a political talking point, and like most political talking points, the truth is more complicated than headlines suggest. Some departures are impossible to dismiss. August 2024 brought Chevron's announcement that headquarters would relocate from San Ramon to Houston over 5 years, citing restrictive policies as the reason. Elon Musk announced both SpaceX and X, formerly Twitter, would move to Texas in July 2024. In-N-Out Burger, about as Californian as a company can get, announced plans to relocate headquarters to Tennessee, and CEO Lindsay Snyder pointed to challenges of raising a family and conducting business in California. 789 companies moved their headquarters out of California between 2011 and 2021, according to various analyses, with departures accelerating after 2017. The Public Policy Institute of California has cautioned that exodus narratives sometimes overstate the impact, and that's a fair point. Many companies that relocate headquarters maintain significant operations in California, moving executive offices and tax domicile rather than leaving entirely. That distinction matters less than you might think. When a company moves its headquarters, it sends a signal that this is not where they want to be based anymore. Enough signals like that start to add up. April 1st, 2024 marked one of the most contentious economic decisions in recent California history, when Assembly Bill 1228 kicked in and raised the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 per hour. Governor Newsom championed this law. The aftermath has become a genuine case study in dueling economic research. The Berkeley Research Group, funded by the restaurant industry, found 19,102 jobs lost since the law passed. An independent National Bureau of Economic Research working paper found California fast food employment declined 2.7% relative to the rest of the country, roughly 18,000 lost jobs. Researchers from Harvard's Shift Project and UC Berkeley, who tend to be more sympathetic to labor, found no significant evidence of reduced employment. The research is genuinely contested, but specific business decisions that follow the law are not. Rubio's Coastal Grill closed 48 California locations on May 31, 2024, explicitly citing the rising cost of doing business in California as the reason. Pizza Hut franchisees laid off approximately 1,200 delivery drivers in anticipation of the wage increase. The California Restaurant Association reported 89% of restaurants reduced employee hours to offset costs. Aggregate statistics can be debated endlessly. Those closures and layoffs represent real people who lost real jobs. Silicon Valley isn't just a place, it's an idea, a symbol of innovation and economic dynamism that has defined California for decades. That symbol took a beating in 2024 and 2025. California absorbed 73,499 tech job cuts in 2025 alone, approximately 43% of all tech layoffs in the entire United States. The Bay Area has lost more than 48,500 tech jobs since 2022. Intel announced plans to reduce its workforce from 109,000 to 75,000 employees. Google made cuts in Sunnyvale, while Microsoft eliminated over 6,000 positions globally. LinkedIn cut more than 280 roles in May 2025, including 159 from Mountain View. Amazon made 14,000 cuts globally with additional reductions in the Bay Area. The information sector overall has declined 16% from its July 2022 peak, roughly 98,000 lost jobs. Scott Anderson, chief economist at BMO Capital Markets, described the situation plainly. The substantial loss of technology jobs in the Bay Area so far this year is a huge shock to the Bay Area economy and labor market. These aren't minimum wage positions, these are high-paying jobs held by college-educated workers, and when they disappear, ripple effects spread through the entire economy, from restaurants to real estate to retail. There's another angle to this story that doesn't get enough attention: the credibility of California's employment data itself. The California Employment Development Department, the agency responsible for unemployment insurance and employment statistics, has been plagued by dysfunction for years. Pandemic-era fraud at EDD resulted in an estimated $20 to $32 billion paid out in fraudulent unemployment claims. Fraud expert Haywood Talcove described it as more fraud in the state of California than there was in any other state in the country. $10.4 billion in claims that the state auditor later determined to be potentially fraudulent passed through the system, including one case where 1,700 claims came from the same address. December 2025, data shows EDD remaining on the state auditor's high-risk list. Federal first payment timeliness standards have been met for exactly 1 month since January 2013. 43% of appealed eligibility issues get overturned in favor of claimants, suggesting initial denials were wrong in the first place. Less than 4% of appeals get resolved within 30 days, even though the federal standard is 60 days. Auditors recently discovered EDD wasted $4.6 million on cell phones and hotspot devices between 2020 and 2025 that were never used. The Legislative Analyst's Office has noted these problems are unrelated to the temporary federal unemployment programs where most fraud occurred. When the agency responsible for employment data has been this badly mismanaged, legitimate questions arise about whether you can trust the numbers at all. Over 1 million Californians are unemployed right now. The state has held the highest or second highest unemployment rate in the nation for 2 years running. Private sector job growth has flatlined outside of healthcare and government, while tech layoffs have devastated the Bay Area. Businesses large and small have packed up and moved to Texas, Florida, and Tennessee, and the minimum wage experiment produced results that even researchers can't agree on. Through all of this, Governor Newsom has pointed to California's $4.1 trillion GDP and dismissed critics as suffering from California Derangement Syndrome. Does that qualify as denying the data? Not exactly. He hasn't claimed the unemployment numbers are fabricated, and he hasn't declared California is at full employment. What he's done is something more subtle. consistently changing the subject whenever the subject becomes uncomfortable. Those of you who have lived in California your whole lives, who remember when the Golden State meant opportunity and optimism, probably find this disconnect between rhetoric and reality familiar. Politicians have always spun the numbers. The gap between what's being celebrated and what's actually happening to working families is what's different now. Senator Ochoa Bogue captured it perfectly. The results don't match the rhetoric. While speeches sound optimistic, budgets at the kitchen table don't add up. Those kitchen table budgets are what matter most.